If you're watching this back, you can just scroll ahead a little bit because I'm going to wait for some people to come on. Wait another minute until I see 4 or 5 people on. I just see 1 right now. How is everyone? Is everyone still doing okay? I look awesome, by the way. Hey, Talisa. All right, well, hi, guys. Welcome back to Factor Live. Um, Last couple times I had some people share their stories because I kind of was figuring that people might be getting sick of looking at my face, so I thought we'd take a break from that. But I'm back on tonight. Hey, girl, hey. Hey, Kim, again. Hey, Jamie. So I'm back on tonight. If you guys are getting sick of seeing me, let me know and I'll have someone else do. I'll give them the material that I research and then they can do it. But for now, it's just Steph. So tonight, let's talk about people, places, and things and how that can trigger relapse. But more importantly, let's talk about having loved ones in addiction still, because that is could be such a huge barrier for us in recovery when we have family members who are still using, and even like our significant other or a family member that we live with or somebody that's extremely close to us that's still using. So I wanted to start by talking about how important it is, the impact that people, places, and things can have on your recovery, and then talk about how hard that is having family members that are still in active addiction. So just participate in the comments as usual. So people, places, and things is so important. It's such an important and vital part of anyone's recovery. And it's not just specifically who you're with. It can be specific things that you're doing. It can be where you are. It could be specific times of the day. It could be specific feelings that you have, like a feeling that someone brings on. Those can all be triggers. And it's important to know and understand what yours are. As far as the people go, it could be a wide range of people. Like, who are some of your people? It could be your parents, it could be a sibling, other family members, current or previous romantic partners. It could be your coworkers, people who you've used with, people who you've bought drugs from. And when I say it could trigger you, it doesn't always necessarily mean that it triggered you to want to use. It could just trigger an emotion out of you. So like if you see the specific family member that is toxic to you, it could trigger you to feel one of those emotions that then could lead to relapse. Hey Jamie, hey guys. For me, it would be obviously family members who use, but there's also some family members in my life that trigger strong emotion from me, like resentments that I was holding on to, or hurt or pain that someone caused me that was so strong that it was a definite trigger for me. That those were definite triggers. Amanda's saying it's extremely important to change all people, places, and things. Yeah, hey Devin. So do you guys know who those people are for you? And we're just talking about people right now, but do you guys know who the people are that you can't be around? Not just because they make you feel like you want to use, but because they trigger an emotion in you. Hey, JR. They trigger an emotion in you that could cause a relapse. Talisa says, I have a mom who still drinks every day, and my dad is still in active addiction, but I've learned to only love them from a distance. So your mom and dad are both people that you can't be around, that you know you can't be around. Amanda says, just for me, it's people I used to use with, okay? That's a definite one for me, obviously. Anybody that I used with can be a trigger. I do have some people that I see now that I used with, but they're long clean, and so it's been so long that it's not a trigger anymore, and that could fade, but for a long time, just even being around them was a trigger for me. Kim says, it may sound weird, but for me, one of my people are doctors because they used to legally prescribe me narcotics for years. So I very rarely go to the ER or doctor anymore. That's not weird. Everybody's got different things that are trigger their emotions. And so for you, if that is like a reminiscent of what used to happen, that's a trigger. That's an emotional trigger for you. Tiffany says, I have a sister still in addiction and she is in so much denial about it, so I just try my best not to even talk to her. And I know that may sound bad, but this is how I deal with it. It doesn't sound bad at all. And I was going to say that for some people, even being associated with talking to, being around, or talking on the phone to that person is too strong of a trigger for them. So you have to cut them out of your life for a period of time and love them at a distance. But for some people, that's not realistic. And although people want us to believe that everyone should be able to do that, for some people, it's just not going to be realistic. So you have to set healthy boundaries. But for Tiffany, her boundary is I can't be around this person. And in early recovery for me, that was my boundary with some of those people as well. Talisa said, I can relate. It took me a while to want to go back to the neurologist. Having my blood drawn was a trigger for me for a while, so I get that completely. Beth says you have to do what's best for you. Absolutely. I agree. And along with the people is the places. And we'll get back to family members who use, but I want to discuss places and things as well. Many of the places that trigger you will make perfect sense, like if you used heavily there, or if it was somewhere where you met your dealer and stuff. However, other places might surprise you, and there's no way to really predict what it is. It depends on what your habits were when you were using, and different people have different places for triggers. It can be alleys or abandoned buildings. Mine's Speedway gas station bathrooms. Can't be in them. Fields or wooded areas, bars, clubs, your childhood home, the city that you bought your drugs in, the city that you used in, cemeteries, pharmacies, doctor's offices, parking lots, a friend's house, concert venues. If any of these are ringing a bell, it's going to be different for everyone. Hey, Kara. It's going to be different for everyone. So you have to know what danger zones are for you as far as places. Talisa says, I'm thankful that I'm in a town where I've never used with anyone, but when I go home, I always run into people who have used with. Yeah, so it's a town for you, and I've got a couple towns as well that are that could be huge triggers for me. I know what they are. Like, I know before I go that I have to have a plan. Also, things can be a trigger for you, and these things could be drug paraphernalia, which is obviously the most common one would be drug paraphernalia, but it could be simple things like a movie or a song playing on the radio. I know someone that it was a certain day of the week. It was Friday night for them, or a specific food, or something like going to a party or studying for a test if you always use during that time. People's anniversaries trigger emotions in people. Getting paid. Those are all different types of things that can trigger someone. Devin said, places don't really bother me. There was no place off limits. If I was there and the drugs were there, then there wasn't any stopping it from happening. Kara says money. A lot of people, money can be a trigger for them. Absolutely. And really, when it comes to people, places, and things, anything can be a trigger if it triggers high stress, anxiety, happiness or excitement, boredom, sadness, or loneliness. If it triggers one of those feelings in you and it's a strong feeling, then that's something that you have to be looking out for. Jamie says, I know this sounds crazy. I had to get rid of plates or mirrors I used that look similar. It doesn't sound crazy. For a long time, plates was a trigger for me. Spoons, for some reason, weren't, but plates were a trigger for me. So, Talisa says, definitely Mansfield. And you have a plan every time you go. I used to have a plan every time I went to Fremont. Not so much anymore, but in the beginning I had to have, like, I even had to go there to get my tags for my car when I was like 4 months clean, and I made my mom go with me because I was so scared to be there. But that was my plan. My plan was have my mom go with me. And we did see my dealer at the BMV, which is really crazy. And my mom was like, that's so weird. I was like, well, I already knew it. I mean, it's not that big of a city. Talisa said different songs hit hard. Beth said, I tell the girls to see things for what they are truly used for. A Q-tip is for cleaning your ears. A spoon is to eat and to train your brain for that. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because our minds for so long thought that specific things were for stuff that they're not made for, stuff that they should never be used for or be thought of to use for. So you have to retrain your brain that these specific things are for this. A straw is used to drink with, a spoon is used to eat with, and train your brain to change the trigger. But until then, it can be hard. Triggers are hard. Tiffany said, stress and frustration are my biggest triggers. Hey, Connie. Amanda said money used to be a trigger. I know a lot of people that still, it's like money in their pocket is such a severe trigger for them. Amanda says loneliness. Loneliness is a trigger for me too. I agree. Devin said that would be the closest to a trigger place for me. Mansfield. The only times I was ever there was never for a good reason. Kim says straws and cellophane wrappers on cigarette packs. I've heard that a lot too. You do direct deposit. Direct deposit does help. Having cash in hand is more of a trigger, I've heard from people, than just knowing it's in your bank account. So I completely get that too. That's a good way to look at it. Maybe not actually having like the money to just have your bank account could help with that. Jamie said, for a long time I go to fast food restaurant restrooms using, and the first thing that popped in my mind every time I got the butterflies I thought of using. It was like that for me too with Speedway bathrooms. And I know that's so random that it's just Speedway, but it's because every time I would go I would stop at different. For some reason, there's like 3 of them, Speedway bathrooms. So like I avoid Speedway as much as I can. And I still do. It's a huge trigger for me. So, but yeah, these are all triggers. And, so it's hard when you're really thinking about people in your life and how they could be a trigger for you emotionally, or really just trigger you to want to use because they're high or bringing things around you and it's a family member. That's the hardest part, because you still want to help them, right? You want them to have what you have. And the hardest part is watching them still suffer. But what would be even more difficult is if you would go back into active addiction trying to help someone else. And that's the most important thing that you have to avoid, which is why you have to set up healthy boundaries. It is so important for people in recovery to have healthy boundaries set up for people, loved ones, and other people that they're surrounded with. Amy says, I'm an alcoholic, so I can smell alcohol from a mile away, and almost anything, it's a big trigger. Yeah, I could see where that would be a huge trigger. So, setting up healthy boundaries, if you do have people in your life that are still using, or you have to be around family members that are using, is going to be so important. I don't know, Kim, who they are. I don't even know how they get on here. It's like every time. Um, it's going to be so important. So let's talk about how to set up healthy boundaries. First of all, you have to understand that your needs are the most important, okay? Because the people that you're setting up healthy boundaries with, they believe that their needs are more important than yours. So you have to put you first and believe that your needs are the most important, okay? You can't build healthy boundaries around still caring more about what the other person wants. You cannot do that. It's impossible to do. Okay? That's the first step of setting boundaries, is you have to love yourself the most. So if you're not doing that, start doing it right now. Start doing it right now. So understanding what your needs are is the most important thing. Seeking out people who value you, okay? So if you don't have people in your life that value you, that want to spend time with you the right way, that don't want to listen to you, or don't take the time to care about what you're talking about or what you're feeling, then you need to start seeking out people who add value to your life. If there's members of your family that genuinely don't value you, limit your time with them as much as you possibly can, because not only could they be a trigger for you to use, but they could be a trigger for you emotionally, and they're just going to keep breaking down the boundaries that you're creating. Be firm with people, but be kind with people, okay? When you set boundaries, it doesn't mean you have to be an asshole. You just have to be firm in what you need. It's important always to make sure that people know that you do love and care for them. You just can't have them around, you know? Protect yourself at all costs, Beth said. And that's exactly right. And that's why you have to be firm. You have to be firm but kind. Setting boundaries doesn't mean that you have to be mean or callous. It's just to help you to be able to cope with difficult family members or family members or loved ones that are using. It can actually be more effective if you do it the kind way than it will be if you do it mean and nasty. So just always remember that you don't have to hurt someone to set boundaries. Sherry says, my daughter learned to stay away from old friends and negative family and friends and have to have a toxic-free relationship. And Talisa said, definitely put your recovery first and love them from afar. People will drag you down before you're able to lift them up. And that's true. That's absolutely true. And people can drag you down without even knowing that they're doing it. They might be seeking help from you, but not realize how much they're hurting you. Talisa says, I don't know how to be firm with people. It's something that takes a lot of practice. You know, and sometimes I'm not even that firm with people. I'm a lot better than I used to be, though. I didn't have any boundaries when I came into recovery, none at all. And it took a long time to realize that I had value, that everyone else's value wasn't the most important thing, that I had value too, and to be firm with people but kind. It was hard. It's a hard thing to do, but it was essential, because I could not be around people that were taking advantage of me, because it triggered emotions in me that could lead to relapse. That is so important to know and understand. If something triggers an emotion that could lead to relapse, it's not good for you. So even if someone's not using around me, but they're taking advantage of me, that could trigger me. Shannon says, boundaries are good. I've had to put boundaries up for a lot of family members and loved ones. Devin says, what if I'm a natural born asshole? Another thing to understand when it comes to setting boundaries with family members and loved ones is to keep your expectations realistic, okay? So if you want to spend time with the family member and they're using, and you say to them, I want to spend time with you, but you can't be using, that's not a realistic expectation, because you have to understand the nature of the disease. They're not going to be able to follow through, and that's not their fault or your fault. So don't expect them to be able to change for you. You have to set the expectations that'll be the best for you, knowing that they're still in addiction. So limiting time with them would probably be a better boundary than to ask them not to use. Jamie said, it was hard for me to set boundaries. I feel distance wasn't an option, but I have definitely made it very clear that drugs aren't allowed in my home. That's really good point, Jamie, because some people, distance isn't an option. It's something that they're not willing to do or that they can't do. And I know that a lot of people say you have to, but everyone's lifestyle and life situations are different. So with that thought in mind, if you can't separate yourself from the person, then you have to set these other boundaries. I don't want using in my home. I don't want using around me or drugs in the vicinity of me. Please don't bring your using friends around me. Limit your time with that person. Set rules and guidelines in the house and stick to them. Be firm but kind. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you so much. Talisa says it's insane because I know that I have value, but don't know how to put my value over others. It takes practice. Like I said, you have to work at it. A lot of times in the beginning when I was testing out using boundaries and stuff, I would start with, please don't be mad at me, but, or I'm so sorry for this. And that is not how you start setting a boundary. You don't apologize first. You don't have to apologize for loving yourself. So start practicing not saying you're sorry when you're asking someone to do something that you need. Devin said, as we all know, in active addiction, the only thing you should expect to be disappointed and expect the unexpected. Exactly. Another important thing to remember when you're setting boundaries is that you need to always have in your heart and your mind the willingness to walk away if you have to. And I say that because even though some of you are not willing to separate yourself from people that are using, if someone is truly a danger to your sobriety and they're that toxic for you, you have to take yourself as the most important person in the relationship and walk away. You have to be able to defend yourself. Even if a family member is with you and they're high and you're just walking away for a short period of time, that could be enough. Beth says, no, we don't have to explain ourselves to anyone, and that's so right. Sorry, not sorry. Sherry says, I've learned from a stepson passing he was doing good, but got around the bad situation and made him relapse. And that is all it took for him, and it costed him his life. Definitely got to watch your surroundings and change from the past of the people you hung with. That's right, because I know a great many addicts that have relapsed and gone right back down that road saying, I just wanted to help them. Or, I love them and they ain't going to bring it around me. Those are really big mistake things to say. Those are huge mistake things to say because you know who you are in addiction. I knew who I was. So I'm not going to put anything past someone because if I'll do it, I know they'll do it, So you cannot believe that someone has your best interest at heart when they're using. They have their best interest at heart. You're the only one that cares enough about you to set the boundary. You have to set it. Jamie says you have to make yourself assertive and make yourself clear in what you will and will not accept for your own recovery. Beth says people will take you out faster than anything. Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. And like I said, they can take you out in so many ways. They can take you out from feeling lonely, or they could hurt you and that could take you out. It's not just using around you. There's so many emotions in relationships that can trigger someone. It's just if they're toxic in any way for you, it's going to become a trigger. It will be. You have to be prepared for that. And you have to have a plan. You have to have a plan. You have to have sober support. One thing that I know is also really important is accountability. Accountability with boundaries is super important. Let someone know that someone is like toxic for you. For example, like if you have a family member and they're using and it's triggering emotions in you, you need to tell someone that. Talk to somebody in your sober support so that they can hold you accountable. Hey, did you talk to so and so today? How long did you talk? How did it make you feel? That's all it could take. If you allow someone to be your accountability partner with a family member that's using, it could make all the difference in the world. Because some of us do still spend time with family members in active addiction. And so talking about it openly with our sober support, or talking about it openly with our counselor or someone that can talk with us about it is only going to help the situation. It's only going to make things better. Setting healthy boundaries but not having someone to help you see it through is going to be pointless. So if you're going to set the boundaries and you're going to be firm but kind with someone, and you're going to be willing to walk away if you need to, and you're going to keep your expectations realistic, make sure you follow up and ask someone to hold you accountable for it so that you don't fall into old patterns with someone that's using. Tiffany says, I just don't put up with the bullshit anymore. People forge sometimes that I used to use drugs also, so I know all the lies and games. Yeah, we've been there. So we know when someone's playing the runaround with us, and we don't have one more chance in us just to give someone the benefit of the doubt. So yes, we have family members that use. No, we do not need to be around them. Or yes, we need to set healthy boundaries with them. It's point blank. Another way that you can set boundaries with loved ones that are using is to be direct. Don't drop hints or be passive aggressive about your boundaries or tell other people but not tell them. Be direct with the people in your life that are still using and say, hey, I know you're still using. I love you, but I can't be around you right now. Or, hey, I love you and I know we have to spend time together, or I know if your brother's living at your house or your sister or something, I know we're living together, but please don't come around me using. Please don't bring your family members and friends around that are using. Please don't bring it in the house. Be direct with what you need from them. Because if you are passive aggressive, then they're going to take that as an opportunity to run over you. It's a manipulation technique, and all of us used it, so don't put it past a family member or a loved one. I know that I would use that opportunity to do what I wanted if someone was just passive aggressive with me. So you've got to be direct and firm with what you need. Devin said, just as simple, are you okay, can make the biggest difference. Absolutely. Directly telling someone that you know something is going on is so important. Because when you're just passive aggressive about it, it gives them so much more time to manipulate the situation. Sherry says, I just wish he would have reached out to his mom or me or family member knowing he was getting weak and going into a bad surrounding. Yeah. Okay, so another really important tip for setting boundaries with loved ones that are still using is to seek taking care of yourself. So although you're working on these healthy boundaries with your family and friends, you still need to take the time and stick to the boundaries and love yourself and work on your own relapse prevention plan. Self-care is the most important thing in our recovery. Putting yourself first and seeking to love and take care of yourself first could really greatly reduce the cravings when a trigger comes. Devin says, unfortunately, sometimes it's so spur of the moment and happens so quickly. It is. It can be, it's a crazy illness, a crazy disease we have. So, I've seen people slowly sliding backwards, and then I've thought people were doing great and come to find out they've relapsed. So there really is no way to tell, which is why when I got into recovery, I set those boundaries with everyone, whether I thought that they were clean or not. I have a friend that's over a year clean now, and, we used together for a long time. And she wasn't good for me, and I was not good for her. And I didn't know if she was clean or not. Honestly, she kept telling me that she was, but I wasn't sure. And I knew that going around her to even find out could have been the end of my recovery. So I wasn't willing to take the chance to just like go and see or like hang out with her because she says she's clean. Because I hear a lot of people say when they relapse, well, I thought they were clean, or they told me they were clean. Okay, but if you've used with that person and you're in early recovery, you should not be around them. Okay, there's no reason for you to be around them whether they're clean or not. Because A, we all lie. B, whether they're clean or not, they're still going to trigger that emotion in you. They're going to trigger you to want to use. One of y'all is going to trigger each other. So if you're in early recovery, I'm going to tell you right now, thinking someone is clean is the worst mistake that you could ever make. Going around them is a worst mistake you can make. You have to set the boundaries with everyone in early recovery. Anyone you used with, you shouldn't really be around, whether they're clean or not. It's just, I mean, it's very dangerous. It's super dangerous. Hi, Claudia. So I just wanted to say that because I hear it all the time, and it's so important for you guys to understand that anyone can relapse at any time. So if two people are early in recovery think that each other is clean, who's to say what could happen? You know, y'all could just trigger each other. Devin said, I've never really gotten into self-care. What's up for a day of penny shopping? Who's up for a day of penny shopping? Hey, Ross. Yeah, so, and I know that's harsh, but I had to do it with her. And it hurt her really bad. It hurt my friend's feelings really bad, but I didn't know whether she was clean or not. And I felt bad sometimes because I'm like, man, what if she really is clean? But I could not take that chance. And come to find out, she wasn't. She had relapsed. And so that could have been the end of my recovery if I wouldn't have assumed that she might not be. And it wasn't like I didn't think she could do it. I just was too early in recovery to be able to be strong enough to say no. And I knew that. So she's clean now, and we're friends, you know, and it's fine. But at the time, I just was not strong enough to say no. So I just think it's really important for everyone to hear that. So having a loved one in addiction, in active addiction, it sucks. It hurts. It's already hard. But being in recovery and having a loved one in addiction is 10 times harder because we know exactly what they're going through. We think we know the way out. We want to give it to them. There's a chance that they could give us what they got. Like there's so many things that break the rules in there when you're in recovery and you have a loved one in addiction. So the best things to do are to make a plan, to have a plan for yourself, to have healthy boundaries and to practice them with your sober support, and to have really great coping skills to deal with the emotions that come with a loved one being in addiction. So let's talk about how we cope with that. Let's talk about and bring up some of all of those coping skills that we talk about all of the time, so that everybody on can get an idea of some ways to cope. Claudia said that's why I stay in Tiffin, because I had too many people I used with. So what are all some of the coping skills you guys use when you're getting triggered? Exercise is one. This list says putting on fake tattoos, but I don't know anyone that does that. So writing poetry, journaling, being with sober support, calling your sober support, meditation, using the Calm app. There's some YouTube videos on ways to meditate and calming stuff. What do you guys use for coping skills? Watching a movie, crossword puzzles, Sudoku. Is that how you say that? Sudoku. Is that how you say it? You know what I mean. Going to a movie or watching one right now. Getting involved with school, doing schoolwork, painting your nails, doing your makeup, listening to music, singing, cleaning the house, punching a punching bag. Some people scream really loud when they need to get something out. Taking a hot shower or a relaxing bath with bath salts and candles and putting music on. Playing with a pet, going for a walk, read a good book, aromatherapy, Ross says, and if you're truly serious about your recovery plan, make sure you let the family be a part of it. Absolutely. And we've talked about that before. That it's really important in recovery to talk with our family members and loved ones about what we're going through, be honest about our feelings, and let them try to be a part of it, because we need all the support we can get, and they're going through their own recovery with our addiction, and they need our help and support too. Okay, here we go. Amanda says journaling and meditation. Talisa says always reach out to my sponsor, step work. Connie says reading crafts is a big one right now. I'm working on scrapbooks for my kids, for Kaylin and Noah. Scrapbooks of all the pictures I have of them for their lives. It's going to be really hard for me to get through, but I'm going to do it because I think it would be a really good new relaxation technique for me. Amy says self-improvement. TED Talks. TED Talks are great. I love them. Going back to school, books. Claudia says cleaning and taking Cash to the park. Cash is her dog. JC says music, coloring, writing, yard work. I'm not doing yard work, but that if some people like that, that's cool. I hate yard work. I really do. But yeah, these are all wonderful coping techniques, and you need to, I use them when I'm feeling even triggered by emotion, because it takes a good 10 minutes before a trigger or a craving goes away. So you've got to keep your mind busy for a small period of time to get yourself past it, past the feeling of wanting to use, past the feeling of emotion. So pulling out one of these ideas during that time, or when you've just been around a family member who's using, or when you've passed by a place that brings back emotions, pulling one of these things out and doing it is going to give you your hands busy, and it's going to give you the time you need to recover. Sherry says, I tried to be there at all times for my daughter and help with advice if she needs it. And that's wonderful, because that's exactly what we need. We need our family to be there and to be supportive with us. You know, it's a disease, and some people don't think it is, but it is. So it's sometimes hard for us to express our emotions of how we're feeling. So to have a family member want to be there is it's an amazing thing. I hate housework too. Yes, I do. I only have plasticware, so, because I don't like dishes. So I even have plastic forks and spoons. Amanda says, been working in the yard. That's cool. I know a lot of people like working in the yard. Baking. I know Mindy Smith likes to bake, and that could be a really big stress reducer, or it can be. Or cooking or learning new things in the kitchen can be a really good one too. So those are all really, really good ones. And the most important thing is to keep your mind busy during the craving or the trigger. And if you have to love someone from the distance, you have to, because you guys' recovery is more important. It's got to be more important. And I know that hurts. And it sucks to have to try to let go of somebody that's using. And it feels wrong to love yourself more. But what good will it do if two people are using? You know, you can tell yourself that you're being the example for them. Set the example. Set the expectations, but love them from a distance. Show them how it's done. And hopefully they will take your lead. But at the very least, you will still have your life in recovery. I pray that everyone gets it. And I hope for every one of your family members and friends. I hope that they will reach out. I hope that they will get it. And I know that there's still hope, because there's hope for everyone. Everyone has a chance. Everyone has more than one chance. Talisa likes to organize things. I don't know who likes that either, but I definitely don't. Yes, recovery is a time to be selfish, Devin. It's time for you to be selfish and self-centered. It's okay to take care of people and to do things for people and to love other people, but if you don't take care of yourself, you will crash. And I've been there. I've crashed, had depression. So take it from someone who's been there. It doesn't do anyone any good if you're not taking care of yourself. And even though it hurts, talk with people about how you're feeling about a loved one that's still in addiction. they may have been gone through the same thing. They might be going through it and need someone to talk to as well. It's so important for us to keep talking, keep the conversations going, keep the communication going with everyone. Sherry says, absolutely. She tried to help an ex-boyfriend that relapsed and had 2 places lined up for rehab, and he ended up not going. She had to end it and back away. And sometimes the best thing to do is to back away and take care of yourself for a while. It's absolutely true. Absolutely true. And I talk with a lot of people all the time, about what they're going through. Sometimes people still using, and but I have to take time for myself. I've been going nuts at my house with this quarantine. So I have had to, I took a hike with my mom yesterday, and it did me so good because I've just been really feeling isolated, and then more isolating myself by just kind of binge watching TV when I need to be outside, or in my Bible, or doing my recovery work, my step work. So, it's really important for everybody to take the time for themselves, even if you are helping other people. It's okay to help other people, but if it's at a cost to you, it's not okay. Amanda says, when I try to please others, I fail myself. I have to love myself first. Absolutely. That's so important. It really is. So, yeah, hopefully you guys will be practicing setting healthy boundaries. It's the most important part about having a loved one in addiction is the boundaries. It's not just for you, it's for them too. Setting those boundaries can help them in so many ways. It can help them reach out and ask for help. It can help them lean on someone else other than you, when there's probably enabling going on between the two of you, and it can help you to have a healthy, more successful recovery. So it's really important to set those boundaries. It's important to try to know what your people, places, and things are, and to be self-aware of that, and try to make plans to either avoid those situations or a plan of what you're going to do if you're triggered in those situations. I'm glad she's happy, Sherry. That's so good. Devin, I love that song. I needed to lose you to love me. I do. And that is so important. You have to love yourself first. We can only make it if we take care of us. It's so important. So Craig says he has to keep his mind busy. Absolutely. My mind has to be busy all the time, or I'm running around with these thoughts, and that's not healthy for anyone to be just running around with their thoughts. So keeping your mind busy is important. It's really important. Yeah, so those are those tips. If you guys need anything, make sure you reach out. Try to work on practicing healthy boundaries, not just with people in your life that are using, but with family members and friends, even that aren't in addiction. We all should have boundaries with everyone. It's so important in recovery. So work on that, practice that, and try to remember not to say you're sorry when you're setting a boundary. Be firm, but be kind when you're setting your boundaries. And remember your coping skills. Use them daily. Take care of yourself. Practice self-care. And when you need to get into your coping skills and you're feeling triggered, spend 15 minutes doing something that you're not normally doing so that you can relax your mind again. So, all right, you guys. That's it for this evening. I love you all. I hope everyone is still doing really well. And Thursday night, we're going to have Mindy Gordon-Smith share her story, which I'm super excited about. Hopefully she'll share some recipes with us as well. And love you all. Be safe. Happy quarantine.